Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Is there anyone there?
Yes, what you see?
Iceberg, right ahead!
Thank you.
Don't let what happened to the Titanic happen to your 401k plan. What you need is not a bigger and better ship. What you need is someone to captain it. All aboard?
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, best-selling author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
The date, April 14th, 1912. The Titanic was at that time the largest cruise ship ever built, measuring 882 feet 9 inches in length. Think of about 3 football fields, if you will. And it also measured 92 feet 6 inches wide with a total height of 104 feet. She weighed in at 46,000 gross tons. Now that's a lot of woman. So as you can imagine, when the world's biggest ship set sail on that night on April 14th, 1912, a ship, incidentally, that all the experts said was too big to sink, none of those 2,435 passengers on board, nor the 900 crew that were helping to pilot that ship, would have ever dreamed that the maiden voyage of the Titanic would be her last. After all was said and done, this magnificent ship that was too big to sink, of all those people on board, only 706 people survived. In this particular scene from the hit movie Titanic, featuring Leonardo DiCaprio, by the way, we see the reaction of those on board when all heck breaks loose, everyone, of course, realizing that the ship was just about to hit this random iceberg out in the middle of the sea. It's interesting that with all the technology of that era, on board the Titanic even, and apparently with several warnings given to the Titanic before hitting the iceberg that there was a lot of ice on the seas that night, and of course they had all these experienced crews to keep the passengers safe, the captain was nowhere to be found during this incident. Instead, the fate of that Titanic was left to the desperate attempts of men trying to turn that ship around before it hit the iceberg. Oh, by the way, here's an image of what they think was the actual iceberg that struck the Titanic, an iceberg that would later watch her sink to the bottom of the ocean just 3 hours following that fateful collision. Welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, the captain of your financial ship today, retirement planning specialist and 401k rollover expert Tony Walker. And today, we're going to compare that fateful night of April 14th, 1912 to the fateful nights you have experienced recently over the years and watching all these financial icebergs rip apart your 401k savings plan, and why not having an experienced captain on board is reason to worry about getting safe passage home. But before we learn about how to captain your financial ship and how to be worry-free in retirement, allow me to introduce the producer of our show, America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, along with his faithful sidekick on the graphical side of things, Miss Megan Murphy. Okay, here we are as we record the show, April 7th, 2020, as we speak of the market going down, 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 and hopefully starting to go back up, but who knows, right? We've been here before, and we're going to be here again. So assuming you're willing to continue to put your money at risk inside the 401k or outside the 401k, my point is good luck, because here's the dirty little secret that nobody wants to talk about. As big as your 401k might be, as large as the company handling your 401k might be, remember the Titanic, more than likely you are sailing on a ship without a captain. Think about it. Who is right now captaining your 401k plan, your IRA? What about inherited money you just received? My question is there anyone at the helm of your financial journey that knows what the heck they're doing? They realize the dangers, the potential financial icebergs that lie ahead, and do they have a crew of people to help that captain with the same dedication to keep your money as safe as possible? Why? So that you can use and enjoy it while you still can. When I return, I'm going to get back to the basics of what a 401k is, how it can be rolled over, and why you need a captain to pilot this ship in order to keep it from sinking. Stay tuned. I'm Tony Walker. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. I'll be right back. Did you know there's a financial product that recently outperformed the stock market with no risk? It's called a fixed indexed annuity. I'm Tony Walker, and for the past 20 years, I've helped 2,000 savers enjoy the safety and security that fixed indexed annuities offer. So if you have money in a 401k, IRA, maybe a lump sum pension that you'd like to safeguard, why not consider a fixed indexed annuity with Tony Walker Financial? To meet with me, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. Ever have to contact on your own the 401k plan? You know how it goes. You call a 1-800 number hoping to get somebody whose English is as good as yours, and then you assume that you're going to have to ask some questions that you probably don't even know what to ask. You're anxious about the investments, or maybe you just don't know what to invest in. And then certainly if you're thinking about moving your 401k, you don't know how to go about that, if there'll be taxes, fees. The point is, these darn calls can be quite intimidating, and just in case you haven't experienced such a call to the big institutions behind these 1-800 numbers, we've asked our own Aaron Orander to do just that. So let's check in on Aaron as he tries to call one of these 1-800 numbers to check on his 401k plan.
Hey Tony, yeah, I'm gonna get my representative on the phone and see if they can answer a few questions that I've got, so let me call them real quick.
Hello. Thank you for calling Mutual of Nairobi. We are always here to answer any questions you may have. To begin, please press 1 to speak to a customer care representative. Thank you. All our customer care representatives are currently serving other, more important clients.
Wait a minute, did you say more important clients?
No, I did not. Please stay on the line, and we will be with you shortly.
Sorry to have to put you through that, Aaron, but now you know what everybody else has to go through. Now, here we are. We're talking about Joe Lunchbox. That's you. You don't know a lot about these 401k plans. You've worked hard and you've saved your money and you realize you don't have a retirement game plan. You don't have a captain at the helm. So what we're going to do is we're going to remind you that there are 3 keys to planning for your 401k plan. First of all, before you do anything or move your money over to any advisor, make sure you have use of those funds. You know, I've been doing this over 35 years, and it's amazing how sometimes people just tie up all their money. They don't allow themselves to use and enjoy it. So in the Worry-Free Retirement, one of the things we want to do is have some of that money positioned to use immediately. Number 2, the other thing you got to have is flexibility. My goodness, think of what's going on recently with this coronavirus and how it's changed the economy. Think about health concerns that could come up that never had to come up, family issues. You get laid off. There's all kinds of things that you need built into your plan, into that game plan, flexibility. And finally, one of my favorites is control. Talking about out of control. You know, we watched this scene on Titanic and it is utter chaos. This iceberg has just ripped this boat to shreds and nobody knows what to do. And certainly we don't want that to happen with your 401k plan. You know, this whole thing of having to deal with these big financial institutions and what to do with your money reminds me of a client who recently retired and he put his money with us. Now, I got to set the stage. This was really good. He told me, he says, Tony, I don't know much about this stuff. I'm interviewing other advisors and I work with a big company and I got a lot of money in my 401k with a very large company, which I recognize this custodian. So unbeknownst to me, he goes to the local office, the retail office of this large 401k plan, and he starts talking about his 401k and moving to an IRA. And he said the young lady was very excited to talk to him until apparently he says, oh, by the way, yeah, I need some paperwork because I'm moving it over to Tony Walker's office. And she said, Tony Walker, who the heck is that? And said, well, it's so-and-so. And the first thing out of her mouth, she said, why would you want to move it to somebody like that when you could keep it with one of the largest companies in the world? And he said something very interesting because I said, how did you respond to that one? He said, you know what, ma'am, that's the whole problem. You're so big that when I call here, I never get the same people. I never get the same responses. I've already met with Tony Walker 5 or 6 times in person, and his office is very responsive. I think I'm going to put my money there. So really an interesting conversation there. That may be like you. You may be saying, Tony, I'm scared to death to roll this thing over. How are you going to help me? Well, let's walk through this. So a 401k rollover, what that means is the 401k is eligible to be moved out from your current employer over to somebody like us, where we're going to put that into what's called an individual IRA. Now, we have to put it with a financial institution. The money is not going to Tony Walker Financial. It'll either go one of 2 places. If we put some of the money in the investment world, we would use Charles Schwab for that bucket. If we decide to use annuities, which usually we do, we'll put those with the insurance companies that underwrite the annuities. So rest assured, your money is with those custodians. It's protected with them. Our job is just to orchestrate and captain the ship and make sure you have plenty of money and give you the guidance you need on taxes and all the other things that are going to come up in retirement. So that's the first line of defense. Then you say, well, Tony, when can I move a 401k over? When can I do all this? Well, you could already have money at a former employer. We could handle that for you. We could roll that over to an individual IRA with us. Let us captain that particular 401k. Maybe you're over 59 and a half and you really want to get this plan set in place. You can usually roll over your 401k even if you're still working when you're over the age of 59 and a half. And of course, when you retire or you've already retired, have already moved that money into an IRA, but realize you don't have a written game plan and you don't really trust who's handling the money, we could certainly move that over. Now, what do we do with that? Our job is to immediately get you income. Let's face it, folks, you've worked hard all of your life. The whole idea of saving money is one day having a plan to spend it. This is why I wrote the recent best-selling book, Live Well, Die Broke. In Live Well, Die Broke, I'm trying to help people understand that after 35 years in this business, most people wait too long to spend their money. Let me repeat that. Most people wait too long in life to use and enjoy these darn 401ks. Now, another thing we do, as we're analyzing the income, again, we're a full-service retirement planning firm, folks. We're just not going to take your money and say good luck after that. We're going to try to keep your taxes as low as we can as you take this money out, spend and enjoy it. Our fees are so transparent. With Schwab, we charge a flat 0.8% or 0.2% a quarter. So if you put, let's say, $100,000 with Schwab with us, it's $200 a quarter. We do everything. We pick the investments, we get you money, we set up changes. Anything you need, we do that for you. And of course, depending on your level of risk, for the most part, most of our clients have very little money at risk. In fact, with this recent downturn in the market, with nearly $400 million of our clients' money in fixed annuities, fixed indexed and fixed interest annuities, they didn't lose a penny as a result of this recent downturn. So my question is, if you have a 401k plan with no captain, why? This is dangerous stuff, folks. We'd like to be that captain. And to meet with me in person or talk by phone, there's absolutely no cost or obligation to see how Tony Walker Financial can possibly help you bring that ship home to safety. So log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Once there, be sure to click on that Let's Get Started button. Well, we've talked a lot about the Titanic and icebergs and the fear of running out of money and, of course, watching that carnage on that boat and people worrying about, hey, I got a lot to fear now with this whole coronavirus. And one thing that I've noticed that's a little disappointing for a lot of you Christians out there is the amount of fear and panic you've exhibited during these turbulent times we've had recently. The Bible has some wonderful good news to share with you about fear. You're going to be surprised how much the Bible talks about this topic and why. But first, I got to get me a cup of coffee. I'll be right back. Well, with us in the studio is our very own Connie Fortney. And first of all, Connie, thank you so much for driving up from Bowling Green on this kind of rainy Tuesday, February 4th, 2020. And I'm giving that date for an obvious reason. What did you remind me of?
Well, I've been working for you for 16 years as of yesterday.
Gosh, time flies.
It sure does.
And it's evolved from, I offered you, we knew each other, our family knew each other. I wanted somebody to do some light typing and filing on a part-time basis 16 years later, let's share with the audience how that position has evolved.
Well, definitely. I mean, now I am office manager of the Bowling Green office and then the annuity new business specialist.
And over that time, of course, I've always instilled in us that we're going to provide good services, but also how has the practice evolved? What have you witnessed from a time when for just a period of time, it's just you and I in the office trying to make do with everything, and as we fast forward now to 2020?
Well, we definitely have more staff. You're right. It used to be there for a period of time. It was just you and I. But we have increased our staff with the goal of just really wanting to have great customer service and provide a lot of different retirement game plans for the client and just do our job well.
And in that time, you started off kind of working slowly into what we call the 401k rollovers. I remember we kept getting more and more people were retiring and we were doing those. And since that time, I mean, I like to call you our 401k rollover specialist. How many 401ks, you know, this is folks when somebody rolls something over, they're moving their 401k to us. Over the past 16 years, how many 401k rollover calls have you made? Do you have any idea?
Not really, but it would have to be in the hundreds, if not even have topped 1,000. I have no idea, but it's been a lot.
Yeah. And I think, you know, the intimidation factor, you know, we run into a lot of people, quite frankly, and you know these people, they're savers. You've met them at our client events and things like that. You know, they've worked hard all their lives. You've seen that 30, 35, 40 years, and then all of a sudden this magical day comes when they retire. Their life savings is in that 401k. What sense do you get from people when you get on the call with them and you call the 1-800 number with them on the line and you handle everything?
Well, first of all, they're very grateful for that. We do conference calls on all 401k rollovers or 403bs, whatever it be, if it's a rollover call, and we assist in that. And they're very grateful, and I do. I lead them through. I just tell them that, you know, I will explain why we're calling and that at some point they'll want to verify they're on the line with me. But yeah, we definitely just hold their hand through the entire process.
And you mentioned even rollover calls, but it also includes some of the involved paperwork. Pensions, a lot of times involve paperwork. That intimidates the life out of people. Thrift savings accounts, TSPs. So even the paperwork, describe the volumes of paperwork in the financial world and how much that we handhold throughout that process.
Well, right. A lot of times, you know, especially, you know, you mentioned the TSP, the 403B, a lot of different pensions, they do require paperwork that are somewhat intimidating. And we always, if I'm on the phone, I'll go ahead and request that they email the paperwork to me so we can just go ahead and complete that. We mail it out to the client for signature. And so we handhold again and again. That's just a great customer service that we offer.
And then you've been around long enough to watch people retire, to watch them start using and enjoying their money. What has evolved at Tony Walker Financial, and what have I preached time and time again to the staff about service after the sale? How would you address that to folks watching and saying, because I do have people come in sometimes, Connie, and they'll say, well, you know, I rolled my money over a couple of years ago and I haven't even heard from these people. So what can a client expect if they roll over their money to Tony Walker Financial?
Well, you're exactly right. Good customer service comes from the top, and you definitely, it comes straight from you. And we do talk about that in all of our meetings and how to have better customer service. We always return phone calls. Clients we always do what we say. And I think they appreciate that, but it's very important because it is their money. Once you realize that it's their money and you treat clients that way, then good customer service sort of just happens because it's all about them and it's not about us.
So obviously, Connie, you're kind of our new business annuity processor. You've watched us write probably in excess of, are we up close to 400 million, would you say? We've got to be pretty close.
We're getting close.
Yeah, so we're one of the leading personal producers of annuities in the country. But since 2017, we've introduced this concept of Charles Schwab, which is not annuities, and something I introduced called the split IRA. Maybe speak to that and what you've noticed in terms of the growth of our Charles Schwab platform and the flexibility that it now gives us for people who want annuities but also want some flexibility outside annuities.
Well, of course, you've done annuities for years, Tony, but we recognize that people don't want all their money in annuities, and you would never recommend that they put it there. So you'd introduced a Charles Schwab platform that offers an awful lot of flexibility for the client to use and withdraw their money straight from that account so that they can use and enjoy their money.
Yeah, so somebody's watching this little snippet here of you and I talking, and they're sitting there and they're still saying, but I'm fearful, I'm worried of this whole 401k rollover process. What could you share with them about possibly what could be their major fear and how we can help them overcome it?
Well, over time, I think I've realized one of the major fears is will their money be taxed? What are they actually doing when they do the rollover? And so I take a minute or two just to explain that a rollover is just rolling from one qualified account into another. There are no taxes until they actually start using their money in the future. So we definitely want to help them understand that nothing is taxed at that point.
So you've been doing a lot of rollovers over the years, Connie. Are people surprised that we go through this rollover process, they get a game plan, they've met with me, that there is no cost whatsoever to roll these 401ks over to Tony Walker Financial?
Yes, sometimes they seem very surprised that they are not actually paying Tony Walker Financial anything. And I quickly explain, that's the good part. The companies that we represent are actually paying Tony and Tony Walker Financial. And so, yes, we're not charging them a thing for our services.
Yeah, and of course we need to make it clear, once somebody gets into the process, if they have a Charles Schwab platform, we do charge a small fee for that, and that's something we can discuss with them. But obviously, since you handle the annuities primarily, we like commissions. It is funny, people say, well, I don't know if I like commissions. Well, why wouldn't you like commissions? It doesn't come out of your pocket. We explain surrender charges. So yes, I think people have that ability to kind of have their cake and eat it too, wouldn't you say? If they want some of the Charles Schwab with maybe some growth and liquidity, we charge a small fee. If they want guaranteed mailbox money, we don't charge them anything up front to set that up.
Absolutely. That split IRA concept is a wonderful thing.
Well, good. Connie, thank you so much for joining us. I know you got to head on back to Bowling Green. We appreciate you so much being here, and thank you for all your hard work and helping all these savers worry less about money.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello.
Hello? Hi, my name is...
Thank you for holding. We value you as a client, and appreciate your business with us. All customer care representatives are still serving other clients, but we promise we will be with you shortly. Thank you.
Well, they value me as a client. I mean, my phone call is important to them. I mean, they just said they're going to be with me shortly, so.
Worried about running out of money in retirement? Then download Mailbox Money for Life from best-selling author and retirement planning specialist Tony Walker. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. As we record this show on April 7th, 2020, there's been a lot of press and a lot of coverage about this coronavirus. It is the result of all the uncertainty that such a virus can bring, and of course all the panic that ensues, that actually brings this one reaction to us all, and that is fear. Fear is a funny thing. Fear is really just our normal reaction to something that will either cause us loss in the future or future pain. It's a concern that what is about to happen is not good, or what might happen if we do something dangerous could be. The problem with fear, though, in some cases is it becomes irrational. Take the sinking of the Titanic. I'm sure after the unthinkable happened, the unsinkable Titanic sank, and so did most of its passengers on board, that once the press got a hold of it, everybody, for a while anyway, was afraid to set sail on the seas. Their fear, of course, was unfounded, but it was real because of what had just happened. I think we're seeing this play out with the coronavirus. Since we know very little about it, we fear getting it, and thus we change our behavior, and sometimes, in my view, become very irrational as a result. Now, of course, we hope our politicians know what they're doing as far as looking out for us, but let's face it, they probably know about as much as we do about it. So we fear because we know in our heart of hearts that there is no one really captaining this ship here on earth. But that's the way God would have it. If someone here on earth was truly able to figure out the coronavirus and every other future virus for that matter, they would be like God. But since man doesn't have that ability to avoid tragedy of viruses or anything else any more than the Titanic traveling at 22 knots was able to avoid that iceberg, we fear. And in my humble opinion, we fear because we have placed our trust in the wrong place. We trust man over God. And funny, as you read in Scripture, one of the most common things God reminds us of time and time again is to what? Fear not. In fact, depending on your version of Scripture, it is estimated that God reminds His children not to fear over 365 times. So we must assume that if God has to keep reminding us to fear not, that He must know that we fear. So what is the best way to alleviate these fears about our future? Well, first of all, by all means, I feel you need to be sure that the boat you're sailing in is safe, that it has an experienced crew who, most importantly, has a captain in charge of your money that knows what he or she is doing, and of course, has the experience to know what to do when the financial icebergs appear out of nowhere. So my thoughts, if you are worried or you are fearful, why don't you take the time to talk to me about what's worrying you? Folks, I've been doing this for over 35 years, and I have personally met with over 15,000 people. I have personally overseen more than 4,000 written game plans, and I want to be here to help you make sense of your retirement and to get you to your destination in the safest manner possible. But you have to contact us to see if we can help. If you have a previous 401k, maybe you have a 401k that's still at a former employer, maybe you're approaching retirement or recently retired, or maybe you've already rolled the 401k over somewhere and you're thinking, man, I don't have a captain in this thing. I just moved to the wrong ship. Why don't you consider Tony Walker Financial? It's easy to do. All you got to do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Now, once there, all you do is click on that Let's Get Started button, and that information is confidentially sent to our offices in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Now, our offices will then contact you to see if you want to arrange a phone appointment with me to discuss your situation. We can meet in person at either our Louisville, Lexington, or Bowling Green, Kentucky offices. Or, one thing we've learned from all this virus, we can certainly do what we call a virtual meeting or a video conference meeting to see how we can help you worry less about money. So, don't sit there and go it alone. Don't float along in that ship without a captain, without a rudder. Go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com right now or give us a call at 877-499-9255, 877-499-WALK. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. I look forward to seeing you next week, but you remember, if all else fails between now and then, you remember to be worry-free. Make it a good one.
Thank you for holding. You are next in line. Please have all of your information readily available. We're sorry, but our offices are now closed. If you'd like, please try again tomorrow, and we'd be happy to assist you with anything you may need. Thank you for calling. Goodbye.